And welcome to another Cardinals Nest, HBC TV 25. This is the show devoted exclusively to St. Mary's University and its athletic programs. Dean Beckman alongside the Sports Information Director, Donnie Netto. And Donnie, a little bit later on in the program, will be highlighting women's hockey as Terry Mannor, the head coach for the women's hockey team, comes on the program to talk about his season. They're already underway and off to a good start.
Yeah, and he's a veteran of this show, so it shouldn't be a problem for him. It'll be great to have him on. They are off to a very good start, and a lot of new faces on this team, so it'll be fun to talk to him about kind of how he's meshing the the returners with the newcomers. And I have one, Anya Hafis, that I really want to talk to Coach Mannor about, having a phenomenal start to her freshman year.
Well, and we did sort of preview women's hockey earlier when we had on Greg Moore, who's the golf coach at St. Mary's, but the assistant women's hockey coach. But now we can get a little bit more in-depth, and Coach Mannor has seen the team play a little bit now, or a few games in, so a little bit more to talk about. That's later on in the program, in the middle portion. Right now, though, let's talk about the past week in St. Mary's sports. And Donnie, what a weekend last weekend for Jovan Newsom from the cross-country team. Jovan has qualified for the NCAA Division III National Tournament for the second year in a row. Just a terrific accomplishment again.
Yeah, it's really great for Jovan, and I just actually talked to him this morning, and he's very excited about going out to Louisville, Kentucky for the national championships. And it's interesting. He's having such a great year that you kind of forget that with the performances that he's had, that this is his second time that he's made it to the national championships. I know that he wants to do a little better than he did the first time, but he seems to be able to keep the nerves in check. I know when we talked, I had asked him, if he's going to be okay, and his answer was, you know what, it's an 8K run. No matter where it is, it's still a distance of 8K. So he's trying to keep an even keel, and a great Central Regional for him. He finished 6th individually, which automatically qualified him for the national championships. The first time that he made it as a sophomore, he actually had to wait until the teams had been selected, and then the individuals were then awarded their individual spots, because it's just the top 7 individuals in each region that are not part of a qualifying team. So the fact that he finished 6th overall, he was automatically in, and great for him.
Yeah. And Donnie, you remember, I'm sure we had Jovan on the program last year here on the Cardinals Nest, and this is and so for any youth that are watching, I think Jovan is a great lesson in persistence, in stamina, because this is a cross-country runner. When he graduated from high school in Illinois, he wasn't even sure he wanted to continue with cross-country. He wasn't sure he was good enough, didn't know if he'd compete at the college level. And now he's at the national tournament in Division III.
Yeah, and that's really, you're exactly right. And I remember when Jovan came as a freshman, and you could get that sense that he wasn't really sure that this was what he wanted to do. And he put in a lot of miles and a lot of hard work. And I think that somebody who should get some credit, or at least a nice pat on the back, is Matt Sager, our strength and conditioning coach. He's done a great job with the cross-country runners, and you can just see by the times that Jovan is putting up that work in the weight room and that extra work that he's put in is really paying off, and I'm excited to see what he can do. He set the school record at the national championships the first time. He was just hundredths of a second off of that at the Central Regional, so I really think that Jovan's going to turn in a very impressive performance on Saturday in Louisville.
And Donnie, so how does that work when you go to Louisville? Will Ward Barrett, the cross-country coach, go with him? Does Matt go too? Or?
No, it'll just be Ward and Jovan. They'll leave on Thursday. There'll be a banquet on Friday. They'll probably do a training on the course that they'll be running, and then Saturday at noon they'll shoot the gun off and they'll take off running. And I get the feeling that Jovan's going to do some really good things.
So Jovan's going to the NCAA Division III National Cross Country Tournament. A volleyball player that we have also had here on the Cardinals Nest has been named second team All-American. What a great honor for Brandy Blattner. And we've talked all year about the phenomenal run the team had in volleyball, the individual play of Blattner and others, but a terrific award for not only Blattner, but the St. Mary's volleyball program.
No question. This is Coach Lester's 19th year, and it's the first time he's had an athlete that's been named to the first, second, or third team. He's had some honorable mention All-Americans in the past, but this is the first one to make one of those three teams. And for Brandy to be second team All-American, there were only two people in the MIAC that made All-American honors, and so she's in some very elite company. And you know, we talked all year, like you said, she had such a phenomenal sophomore year, and you know, it's interesting as I sat at the basketball game last night watching her play basketball. It's amazing what she can accomplish, and she's such a great athlete. And you know, it is a great feather in her cap. But I'm sure that you ask Mike or Brandy, and they're going to say, you know, this really is a team award. Yes, it goes to Brandy for the numbers and the performance that she put up this year, but without the setters that she had, without you know, the liberos and the defensive specialists, she's not going to get those opportunities.
Right, correct. And you know, one of the things that I think about, you know, what makes an All-American, and I'm not sure anybody has an answer for that, but when you and I saw her in that one performance when she had 32 kills, and it quite frankly looked effortless for her. It just looked like another day at the office, but it was one of the most dominating performances that I had ever seen.
Yeah, no question, and that really is it. I mean, she just can take over a match, and I know last year we talked so much the same way about her basketball performances, and she can just take over a game, and that's what she did a lot of times this year for the Cardinal volleyball team, and you know, it obviously did not go unnoticed. You know, just to be first team All-Region is a great honor, and then to add to that, to be second team All-American, you know, there were people across the country that knew how good Brandy Blattner was on the volleyball court this year.
So we'll segue to women's basketball because Brandy is also a women's basketball player. And while she didn't necessarily dominate against Dubuque, she did see plenty of action. But Donnie, the Cardinals did dominate, winning their home opener and the season opener against the University of Dubuque.
Yeah, 76-64, a good convincing win. They were pretty much in control start to finish, and there's a lot of new faces on this team. So it was a good game. I'm glad it was at home because you did kind of get to see some of these people that, you know, we're just learning the names, and to get to watch them play is really good. And I was pretty impressed with the way that they played. Obviously, there's some kinks to work out, and I know that Coach Pollard always talks about these first games in the season, that game against Dubuque, and then they've got Martin Luther this weekend, and they've got Stout this weekend, and then they've got Viterbo on Tuesday. So these are the kind of games that they can do that. They can work the kinks out, make sure that they're ready, because right after Thanksgiving, they'll start conference play. So he needs to make sure people are ready and good to go. Brandy and Emma Schaefer, Brittany Flom, all played different sports in the fall, so they've got some catch-up work to do. And I think that's probably the one thing that makes it the most difficult for Coach Pollard is, you know, you've got three people in basically your starting five in your core that haven't been practicing a lot because Emma played soccer and Brittany and Brandy both played volleyball. So there's some catch-up work to do, but knowing the talent that those three have, I think they're going to mesh just fine.
Right, and you know, you mentioned Emma Schaefer. She's going to have to take on a greater role this year because Bridget Pefke no longer there to run the point guard spot, and Emma did some last year, but it was more of a trade-off with Bridget Pefke. So now Emma will definitely have to take those reins. Mary Wintroth did see a lot of action in the first game against Dubuque, but there's no question that Emma's the best ball handler right now.
No doubt, and I think the nice thing for Emma is she does have experience in that because 2 years ago when Bridget hurt her knee, Emma did step up and have to assume that point guard role. But you mentioned Mary Wintroth, but she had a really, really solid game, and she's one of those players that Coach Pollard is going to be looking for more contribution from than maybe he had to last year. So, you know, it was good to see her kind of start the season the way she did. Sam Jones is going to be dominant inside. She had 16 points, which was a really, really good performance for an opening game. And I think that, you know, her emergence is really going to help Emma, and it's going to help Brandy, and it's going to help Brittany, because if they can get the ball inside to her, that's going to make a really nice 1-2 punch for the Cardinals.
Right. They'll rely on some newcomers. Rugzager, a freshman, played quite a bit in the first game, and Alexa Huseman saw more action this year as well, and they're going to have to rely on her. And she's one of those players that can kind of bounce between guard, forward. She's sort of that middle ground and can defend well. She had a couple of block shots last night.
Yeah, she played very well. And again, she's one of those just like Mary, who maybe didn't see as much playing time last year, but this year is going to be stepping into a bigger role. And if Tuesday night was any indication, they're ready for the challenge, and they're capable of filling the role some of the seniors that graduated last year.
And Donnie, also a successful performance and opening start to the season for the men's basketball team as they have a 34-point win, 84-50 over Martin Luther, and some newcomers getting into the action, but some old faces as well making a big splash.
Yeah, it was a great start for them, and you know, as we were talking off camera a little bit, the beginning of the game was a little bit slow for the Cardinals. They were only up 18-14 about midway through the first half, and then just kind of went lights out and played a great second half. Started out second half with a 25-7 run, which certainly makes it a little easier for Coach Rusthoven to you know, to breathe a little bit in a game like that. But you know, like you had mentioned, we've got some Wiley veterans. Speaking of Wiley, Wiley Farron had a double-double with 14 points and 11 rebounds. Quashington Smith-Pugh had a double-double with 11 and 11, and then the newcomer Kruger came up and had 17 points in his first game as a Cardinal. So good to see that, and you know, it's hard when you didn't get to watch the game, just kind of following it online. But I know Coach Rusthoven is really excited about this season, and the fact that they, you know, were able to get a game in that kind of got their feet wet a little bit. Now they go to Winona State on Monday, so that'll be a huge test for them. So I think this was a good game for them to kind of just work out a little bit of the kinks and really kind of just play somebody other than themselves. And so an excellent start for them.
Right, and for those of you watching here on HBC TV 25, you can see Monday's game against Winona State. Now we should point out the game does count for Winona State. It is an exhibition for St. Mary's. And Donnie, I know the women's teams have done that in the past, and it seems to work out well. You know, it's a good test for St. Mary's, but also a chance to try some new things. But it does count as a non-conference game for Winona State.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of one of those interesting things that in Division III you're allowed to have 2 exhibition games, and so this year we've got Winona State on Monday, and then on the 22nd of November or December we play at UW Green Bay. So those are our 2 exhibition games. It does get a little confusing because they don't count in the standings or on the schedule, but you know, still a great chance to play some really good competition.
Donnie, just a few minutes left in this segment. We still have hockey and swimming to get to, so let's start with hockey. A couple of impressive wins over Bethel, and the defense really starting to come together now. We knew the offense would get going. Martin Gruss with his first goal of the season now, but 2 good conference wins over Bethel to start the conference season.
No question, 2-1 and 4-2. Coach Moore is very happy about that, and I think for a number of reasons, and like you said, to only give up 3 goals in 2 games, that's outstanding. And that starts with Phil Heinley in goal, and he played extremely well. And Coach Moore is there. His defensive core right now, despite what he says when we had him on, and he was really worried, you know, 4 freshmen in the top 6, but boy, they are very talented. And when you got Mike Emilio and Mike Mazzano as the veterans of that core, that certainly helps out as well. But you know, offensively, we talked about this in our last show, and it continues to hold true. 6 goals against Bethel, 6 different players scored them. So that wealth of being able to spread it out is really paying off, making it very difficult for other teams to you know, to do their thing. And as Coach Moore said, the one line that didn't necessarily offensively have a great weekend, Jude Warner, Chad Caesar, and Andrew Cummings, were phenomenal all weekend. And so, you know, it's not always who scores the goals, but who is playing very well. And I know that Coach Moore was very high on that line and what they did to really to bottle up Bethel and allow some of the other lines to maybe mismatch with some of the Bethel lines. So a great performance all the way around. And, you know, a game like the first one, a 2-1 game, those are good games to play early in the year because it shows you what you can do with when the pressure's on. And, you know, it's easy to play in a 6-1 game. It's much harder when it's 2-1, and you've got to make sure that you're doing everything correctly system-wise, and obviously they did this weekend.
And finally, Donnie, tell us how things went at the McAllister Invitational for swimming and diving.
Second straight trip to St. Paul, and again, Coach Bartholomew very happy with the way the Cardinals swam. Kizzy Bell picked up a first-place finish. Joe Tonda picked up a first-place finish. A lot of good performances, and as Coach Bartholomew tells me, is they're kind of swimming through these meets right now, so they're training very hard right now. They'll get a little bit of a break now after this weekend at Gustavus because they won't swim over the Thanksgiving weekend, and then they get back in early December, December 2nd and 3rd. They'll be at the Gene Freeman up at University of Minnesota. So that's the next big one. They'll have a little bit of a taper before that one so they can really kind of get after it. But right now they're kind of training through some of these meets, very tired, very sore, but also getting some really, really good performances.
A lot of trips to the cities, too.
A lot of trips to the cities, yep.
All right, stay tuned here to the Cardinals Nest. We'll talk women's hockey with Terry Mannor, the head coach, when we return here on HBC.
HBC GigaWorld is fiber optic, which means you can experience true gigabit Wi-Fi. With HBC GigaWorld, you can maximize your Wi-Fi experience and the devices you use with HBC's GigaHome Gateway. Take your Wi-Fi to the next level with faster internet speeds that have increased signal strength, backed by the reliability and bandwidth to support simultaneous internet users all at the same time. HBC GigaWorld, with more bandwidth and reliability than any other provider. Visit hbci.com to learn more.
And welcome back to the Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. Dean Beckman, Sports Information Director Donnie Netto, and Terry Mannor joining us now. Terry is the head coach for the women's hockey team. Terry, thanks again for being here on the Cardinals Nest.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so your team is off to a good start to the season. You've about 4 games in now, so give us a little summary of how you think the season has started here.
You know, season's going very well. I think we're progressing with each game. You know, first game, as usual, it was an ugly game. And it was not only for us, but for our opponent. You know, systems weren't crisp. A lot of things going wrong, a lot of things going right. Second game, we were very, very happy with. Systems came in very well, picked up our intensity. And both those first 2 games, you know, there's a period of time that things didn't go well. Specifically in the second game, you know,
That was a wild
it was a wild game.
I'll tell you who didn't like that one was the scoreboard.
Oh, exactly, exactly.
It was a high-scoring back and forth.
Just
affair.
back and forth. I've never been a part of something like that, but that one didn't upset me as much as the first game did. And then the third game against Bethel, conference game, second period, we went through the same thing where we had a lull. And quite honestly, I think it was they score and we hung our heads. They score, we hung our heads a little bit deeper. So the fourth game in which we didn't do that, I was very happy. It showed a lot of progress, showed a lot of maturity. We're very happy with where we're at right now.
So you're off to a 2-1-1 start in those 4 games with the conference games against Bethel, that 6-2 loss, and then the 2-2 tie.
So let's talk a little bit about this team. And every coach goes through this. You lose people to graduation. How important is the senior leadership of this team? I know you've got some people in those positions who have really been with the team for 4 years and have been an integral part of this team for 4 years. How important is what they do as you bring in some new
It's
faces?
extremely important, and it's important every year for the upperclassmen to lead. You know, it's the thing is, quite honestly, even though they do have women's open hockey and stuff that they're together, they don't truly really get together until we're with the coaches. You know, St. Mary's, as in most institutions, are kind of set up to separate people by classes, so they don't see each other much throughout the day. But since we've been with them, and then the seniors prior to working with them, just the seniors are leading by example, plain and simple. They're not a group that's extremely vocal, and I don't expect them to be. I don't expect somebody to be vocal if they're not by nature. But they've been leading through example, and I think they're doing a fantastic job with it.
You know, we finally got to see you play in the 2-2 tie against Bethel, and we've talked a lot, and Coach Moore and I have talked a lot about your speed, and we got to see that on Saturday, in that you are an incredibly fast team. I thought Cassie Lean was the fastest player I've ever seen until I got to watch Anya play. How do you guys utilize that speed? Is that obviously one of the things that you're trying to make sure?
The way we attack the zone, we want to attack with speed every time. You know, put the D on their heels, keep the goalie guessing, having people come from different angles. And it's just basically every time we attack the zone, we want to use that speed as much as possible. Defensive zone, we're a much more controlled team. We're not going to utilize our speed there. But if we get an opportunity to jump, we're going to jump. Yeah, you mentioned Anya and Cassie. They are both, and you know, Jamie right along, and Jesse right along to boot. Fast, plain and simple, fast.
Okay, and I know people don't like to talk individually, but the start that Anya's had, 7 points in 4 games, a point in every game, it has to make you feel good about the future and the potential that this team may have offensively with her being able to do that.
Very much so. I mean, you watch her in practice. I mean, she just naturally has a knack for the game. She has a heck of a shot. You know, quite honestly, one of the first players we've ever had who shoots the puck extremely hard on the ice and wants it to be on the ice. She's just a natural talent, and we've put her in a position to succeed with the players around her as well. The thing I'm looking most forward to is she's not playing with confidence, you know. And she's putting up points without that confidence. You get her that confidence, and we'll see what happens.
Well, and I was going to say she seems very competitive, because a time or two when she wasn't able to handle the puck the way she wanted to, she shows that frustration, like she knows she should have done better than that, and so that kind of
she's definitely very competitive.
Yeah.
But again, she's learning. As it's a step, you know, you had mentioned earlier, the men having a lot of young people. Well, they also have guys who have played 2 or 3 years juniors, whereas we get players straight out of high school. So she's coming from a program where, you know, it's straight out of high school. I don't care what program you come from out of high school. It's a state championship or a national championship for AAA. It's a step. It's a change. And to get them to make that change and understand the differences is big.
You know, we talked a lot in the first segment about Brandy Blattner and how it was a second-team All-American award for her, but there were so many people that allowed her to do that. We're talking about Anya at 7 points, but it isn't just her. It isn't. I mean, she's not taking the puck end to end and scoring. It's a team effort. Talk a little bit about this team and some of the players that through 4 games have kind of caught your eye in terms of really improving or really exceeding expectations.
All of our first years, all of our freshmen, I think, have really improved dramatically. From the first day we're on the ice, October 17th, until now, they've improved dramatically. And then with the games, I mean, the first game, they were wide-eyed. Every one of them was, you know, like a deer in headlights. And getting them that experience. Right now, last weekend, especially the second game, I asked a lot of one of our lines. I put them out a lot. And another one of our lines, Jane, Lindsay, and Bailey, really, really stepped up. Had they not stepped up and played as hard as they did and as smart as they did, we wouldn't have come away, you know, with a tie. They stepped up. You know, Jessie Swick, she continues to impress me. Just her work ethic. I mean, she's just a beast out there. You know, overall, I'm very happy with everybody. Mara, Ashley, both our goalies, very happy with.
I think the interesting thing, you bring up Jessie Swick and you talk about her competitiveness and her intensity, but yet you never see her without a smile on her face. It's obvious that she not only loves hockey, but loves the team that she's playing for, and just loves to be a part of that St. Mary's family.
She has passion for St. Mary's athletics in general, more so, and not to downgrade anybody else, but her elevation for SMU athletics is huge. She'll be the first one, if she has time away from studies. I mean, she has a great GPA. If she has, she'll be the first one at a basketball game, at a volleyball game, wearing the suit, going up and down with the flag. I mean, she plain and simple has passion for our school and our athletic department.
Sounds like a future guest on the Cardinals Nest.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about this weekend. You've got Olaf this weekend before you get a little bit of a break. Not really for you guys because you play the next Saturday, but talk a little bit about this weekend and the Olies and what we can expect there.
You know, Olaf is, if you look at their record the past few years, the only thing that jumps out at you is all the L's. The thing is, they work hard, they compete, they're very intelligent, they're proud, you know, so we got to go out there and we have to, you know, not expect a win, we have to earn a win. They're going to be very hardworking. Their rink, we're playing a Thursday-Saturday series, which is a little different, so we got to change to that. Their rink is the polar opposite to our rink, so it's going to take some time getting used to it. It seems like you can fit 2 of their rinks on our rink. It's just so small. But we're expecting, especially on Thursday night, a very, very tight game.
And it seems to me in years past, they play everybody close, right? As you said, they're hardworking. They just haven't gotten the breaks the last couple of years. But in their games against you, it strikes me they've been 1-2 goal games at the most.
They're tight. And if you look, again, I looked at it yesterday, the schedule the past few years, they're in every game. It doesn't matter if they're playing a team who's in the top 5 in the nation or they're in every game. Why they haven't been over the hump, I'm not sure. I just hope it doesn't happen this weekend. But yeah, they're very competitive.
One last question, Terry, then we'll let you run here. Looking ahead, what are some realistic goals for this team, or what have you talked to your team about?
We talked to them. I should say I talked to them, and I told them, I was like, listen, a lot of teams will sit down and they'll have our conversation of what our goals are. I told them, you guys, I want you to have individual goals. I'm telling you what our goal is. Our goal is to make playoffs and make it at the highest that we can. That's our goal, plain and simple. End of conversation. So that's what I expect. Is it going to be easy? No. Our conference every year, is more and more. I mean, last year we were, finished 5th. If we had 3 more wins, we take the conference outright. So it's very, very tight. But our goal, plain and simple, is to finish as high as we can in the playoff race.
All right. Terry Mannor, the head coach for the women's hockey team. Thanks for being on the program today. Good luck here the rest of the season. All right, stay tuned here to HBC's The Cardinals Nest. Donnie and I will return with a look ahead at the week in St. Mary's sports here on HBC. And we're back here to wrap things up on this week's Cardinals Nest. And Donnie, HBC TV 25, you'll be able to see the hockey games this weekend live on Channel 25, 525 in HD. And we got some good matchups this weekend, the men Friday night and the women on Saturday.
Yeah, the rumor is that the shortest HBC host is going to be there, Justin Barrientos. So I'm pretty excited about that.
He will be on campus live, and I'll be doing the games with him.
Should be exciting. St. Olaf is always a tough opponent, like Coach Mannor said, so that'll be great. And then, as you mentioned, HBC will be at McGowan Gymnasium on Monday for the Winona State and St. Mary's game. And then the teams are off. Well, let's see, women's basketball and hockey both play on Tuesday.
Right.
Women's basketball is at home against Viterbo, and the men's hockey is in Milwaukee against MSOE. And then on Saturday, the men's basketball team kicks off their home schedule with a 3 o'clock game against Luther. And women's hockey plays Eau Claire also at home at 4 o'clock. So a busy week, even though we have Thanksgiving in there.
You bet. All right, that's going to do it for the Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. Thanks for watching.